time.
The legs.
Under the flamboyant nickname El Matador, he has dismantled the featherweight elite in style and vows to conquer a new weight division next.
All right, I have no idea what I'm doing
Today
here,
we
but
witness the bullfighting spectacle from the UFC's premier headhunter.
I have no idea what's going on here. Jeez.
Although an ethnic Georgian, Ilya was born in Germany. At the age of 7, he returned to his ancestral homeland, where he trained in Greco-Roman wrestling, and moved to Spain at 15. Searching for a wrestling mat in a new country, he and his older brother ended up at a gym led by the Clement brothers, who were teaching jiu-jitsu as well as MMA. Drawn to the creative freedom of mixed martial arts, 18-year-old Ilya launched his pro career with an explosive blast double. From side control, the young El Matador worked his way to the back, flattened his opponent out, and forced the tap at the 60-second mark. Still quite raw in the striking department, Topuria understandably leaned into his wrestling. And once the ground game ensued, he didn't hesitate to show off his acquired submission skills.
What the heck? All right, what's going on? Dang it, dang it, dang
Another
it.
prospect for a vacant regional title, the Georgian Matador perfectly timed a level change. But having failed to lock in a choke or an armbar, he nearly left his head on the scaffold. So, returning to the feet, Ilya trusted his fists for the first time. But had to spend the rest of the round on his back. After the break, Topuria grounded his foe again. Imposed a grueling grappling pace. And cinched up a high elbow guillotine. With a string of wins in Spain, Ilya outgrew the local circuit, but to breach into the international scene, he had to solve his citizenship issues, which lasted the next year and a half. Luckily, all matters got resolved by April 2018, and at a 135-pound tournament in Finland, Topuria displayed much sharper punching mechanics.
Ruutia pojilla. Tavallaan se hyvän aseman on pitänyt.
Already resembling the modern version of himself.
How do I get rid of the darn...
His 8-1 adversary sought to explore his ground options. The Matador reversed the attempt.
How do I get rid of the darn video that's ahead of time?
And once they
Why
returned to the
isn't things
feet, calmly
simpler?
started chaining
It just,
strikes together.
it just seems simple. Why it's not simple.
The last-ditch
Come
shot was
on.
easily stuffed by Topuria, who smoothly
Where
transitioned
is it?
to
Hey,
a
if you're
mounted
there,
guillotine.
anybody, just say something, would you?
Tätä on paljon puhuttu, että kenties sellainen kaveri, että sieltä se vaan oli kyllä.
A couple of months later, the 21-year-old prospect received a rare opportunity to challenge for the vacant title in his debut for the prestigious European promotion Cage Warriors. Ilya failed to capitalize, missing the scale by 4 pounds. Still, he fully lived up to the hype inside the cage.
Topuria in the grave.
Immediately in on tossing around the helpless Brian Boulin.
Fighting out of Spain currently. Big pickup and a big
Topuria wouldn't let him escape.
bell. Oh, beautiful stuff here from Bulan. Doesn't quite get out, though.
Oh, and he's to the back early.
And after wrapping him up with an anaconda choke from the back,
Guillotine set up for, well, sorry, Darce set up from here.
in the whirlwind of events, he forced Bryan to count sheep before bedtime.
Yeah.
He's out. He's out.
It's over!
Wow.
Ilya Tuporia
The promotion didn't appreciate the clockwise execution,
does want some. Oh, my goodness.
so El Matador directed his talents to the Middle Eastern promotion Brave, joining their 145-pound featherweight roster. The aging Luis Gomez had no answer for the pressure of the new generation frontman.
Hanging jab. Oh, and he's catching him early. But Gomez throwing back. Just as we predicted.
Topuria
All right, let's
nonchalantly
just stop that. We know it's possible to use OBS and StreamYard in conjunction with Rumble Studio. Okay, but what in the hell is StreamYard? OBS or StreamYard? Live chat integrations and more while maintaining their existing setup. There are multiple ways to use Rumble Studio with OBS. Okay, well, then how? The simplest way to use OBS or StreamYard with Rumble Studio is to add an RTMP participant to your live stream. An RTMP participant is a participant in a Rumble Studio stream that receives its video from an RTMP URL. This way you can stream video and audio from OBS or StreamYard into the RTMP URL and then use the regular Rumble Studio layout system to display the video feed from OBS or StreamYard. Note that there might be a delay between your OBS or StreamYard instance and Rumble Studio. If you don't want to use RTMP participant, you can use a virtual webcam. To start, you need to activate the virtual webcam in OBS. This will create a webcam on your device that OBS is streaming video into. You should then select the virtual webcam as the video input in Studio. In order to send audio from OBS to Rumble Studio, you need to send audio from OBS to a virtual loopback cable. You should then select the virtual loopback cable as the audio input. Geez, why? What the hell? Why is it so complicated? I just want to stream. Oh boy. Okay, let's just go down here. All right, let's go up to Rumble, Docs, View, Settings, Full Screen Interface. Let's see what that is. Okay, let's go to Settings. Stream, Audio, Stream. YouTube. Disconnect account. YouTube. Output. Uno. Do. I just don't get it. Stream. Look at that. Okay. Disconnect account with YouTube. I don't want to do that. Output. Audio, video, hotkeys, general. Let's go back to general. Why am I so confused? Let's go back. Let's just get out of the Rumble. Rumble. Oh boy. Let's just exit. Let's just exit and then go. You currently active. All streams recording will be shut down. Okay, I don't want to do that. All right, well, if I'm live, then where the heck is anything going on? Jeez. I'm tired of it. I'm tired. Let's see if this plays. Okay, that's playing. Okay, boom, boom. We got that. Now, if I want to go to this.
Programs We're
Just
talking
go like
clinics for
that.
various
Boom,
ailments,
boom. Now we got that
transportation
story.
companies that drive people to these places, as well as home healthcare facilities that can also double as a personal residence. Find a place like this, get yourself a physical
Okay.
location, fill out some forms, and boom, you're on America's payroll. But if you think that's bad, here's where things get even worse in Maine specifically, where half the 46 million plundered in one scheme did come from the federal government, with the other half coming directly from the state of Maine, which raised taxes on its own
Okay, I'm gonna
residents
go
just to turn
find-
their money over to organized fraudsters. Well, the not Republican governor of this state allegedly did more than just look the other way, which is the same direction Minnesota's governor is still looking. Speaking of which, the real reason these schemes are being discovered from Minnesota to Maine and likely everywhere in between has everything to do with Governor Walz of Minnesota, who was supposed to become vice president of America so that all this could be covered up and swept under the rug. If Trump didn't win, do you think we'd be learning about the plundering of our country in places that claim to help others? Of course not. These aren't generous states at all, which is how they're being defended. And you better put your seatbelt on, because the way the socialists plan to take over our country is with the help of schemes we're learning about on a daily basis, which involve the combination of an open border that defrauds legal residents of jobs and homes, combined with professional thieves siphoning money, which is intended for the less fortunate, who just so happen in sanctuary states to include growing numbers of folks in America illegally,
All right.
creating a massive
What
circle
the
of
heck?
fraud that is just ballooning out of control.
This building right behind me has 22 different home and community-based healthcare companies registered in the building. It's only 4 floors. They're all home healthcares. Healthcare, home healthcare. I didn't even know what home healthcare was. Do you think these businesses are actually legit businesses?
Some, yes, but some I highly question.
So we've got zombie buildings, as News Nation is calling them, all over the place, where the property owners of these places, they haven't even seen their tenants, who I guess are still paying rent, or they would kick them out and pull the sign off the door. But since this is also a sanctuary that prohibits law enforcement from working with the federal government, hindering enforcement of everything from fraud to immigration, Maine's got other problems that might put the entire general public at risk.
What's wrong with you guys? And those ain't come out handling me.
So here we've got ICE arresting somebody who's been hired by a police department to protect people and enforce the law, yet they themselves are guilty of breaking the law in some capacity, a concept which is unbelievably lost on the people running this place. Listen to this.
ICE arrested one of our corrections officer recruits. He was hired in February of last year and underwent a rigorous hiring process. The individual who was arrested last night was in the academy last fall. And in November, this individual left the academy and went to Texas for a hearing on his immigration status. He didn't let us know until after the fact, and we had some issues with it because we should have known. But as my staff brought it to my attention, it's like, I'm really worried about the fact that this individual is trying to get his immigration papers.
So the police chief doesn't think illegal immigration's a big deal? He thinks it's just a bizarre concept that somebody who's in America illegally would apply to work at his department? And why did they select this person over all of the other applicants they have? Like, that's a interesting, rigorous hiring process, as he describes it. But apparently in Maine, fraud is not limited to a bunch of zombie office buildings, as they're referred to, nor is it limited to a few police departments here and there. Oh no, apparently fraud here starts at the very top.
Well, I will tell you that unlike Minnesota, the governor of Maine is the architect of the fraud. It goes back to 2015 when I was governor. The Attorney General at that time was Janet Mills. We presented her with a number of fraud allegations, and she never, ever prosecuted any of them. So I went to the legislature and I asked them to allow me to hire lawyers so that we could investigate and prosecute. She went to the legislature, and it was democratically controlled, and she convinced them not to give me the money. And therefore, I then went to the Obama administration and tried to get HHS to do something, and they refused.
Wow. So this gentleman, former governor of Maine, knew there was something fishy going on, did everything he could, and nobody would look into it. He even went above his own state. He went to the federal government and said, hey, we got some problems here. And nothing was done about it. And fascinatingly, the attorney general he refers to, who wouldn't do any investigations in the state of
this, that, and
Maine,
the other
is
thing.
now the governor of Maine, which is not suspicious at all. No. But he also said the White House at the time, which was being run by Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden, didn't want anything to do with this fraud investigation either, which means these schemes have likely been part of our country and the way it operates for quite some time. Longer than any of us can even imagine, which explains why they're pretty much everywhere, essentially hiding in plain sight, with nobody doing anything about it because people know about these things and don't want to do anything about it.
What was the reason why, for example, HHS would say no? And especially, you're a credible guy, you're governor of a state. I got some corruption here. I need an investigation. How could they say no?
Yeah.
They just simply said no. And I forget her name now, but she was the former governor who was heading up HHS, and she just refused to. Now, I'll tell you one thing. In defense of everybody, in 2016, when the administration changed, I did go to the Trump administration, and I went to the lady who was running Medicaid, and she told me
Chad,
that I
I'm
was
trying
right
to-
on the law.
I'm
but I
trying
was
to
wrong on the
figure
optics.
out the streaming going live on OBS with
That
my
is a
OBS,
fascinating statement
going
for
to
two reasons.
YouTube, which
First
I
of
seem
all,
to
it
be able to do
confirms
that, but
what a lot
I
of
wanted
us
to go to
already know,
Rumble
that
and
President Trump's
couldn't get it to
first
work.
term
Or
was a
says
lot
it's working,
different
but
than
then
his second term.
the
people that were running
placeholder
his first term,
thing that
these
I
were
had
folks,
there, I
these
couldn't
Washington
get it to stop.
elitists, these people that were part of the so-called swamp, as it's been referred to. These people, it seems like, wanted to keep these scams going. Now, they were perhaps a little bit more honest. They didn't just say, no, we're not going to investigate this. They gave a reason why they didn't want to investigate it, which is the same reason we've been hearing. They were worried about the media twisting this around on them and demonizing them, revealing that America's career politicians were doing everything they could, no matter who
Okay,
was in
well,
charge,
I'm looking
not just
at
to
my,
secretly paralyze presidential candidates they
Rumble,
disagreed with, but
and
to hide these
maybe
fraud
I've
schemes
disconnected
and
it
keep
because
them
I don't
going. Keep them on the
see
down low so that when the presidency changed and the
anything
US
now.
border opened,
Watch
these
later,
schemes
watch
could kick
history,
into overdrive, which it
shop,
looks
trending,
like
editor
they
picks,
did. And
browse for
probably the
you,
most
home.
fascinating thing of all.
So, all right, let's just say it's not
pretend
on. I'm going to click that
President Trump won
upload
the
video
election
or
in
go
2020 and
live.
carried over much of his same
Rumble
administration. Well, that
Studio.
would
What the
have
heck is
created a
Rumble
situation where the
Studio?
same people who didn't want to investigate these fraud schemes would likely still be there. Why wouldn't they stay? They were doing such a great job. They won re-election again, right? Had he won in 2020, none of what's getting exposed now would be happening. We wouldn't have ICE out there arresting people that are in the country illegally. We wouldn't have the feds knocking on doors of these fraud compounds. And we probably wouldn't even have news networks that were willing to go out there and do this hard work to uncover this stuff.
Let's not do this right now.
President Trump had just come in. That was in the spring of 2016. He had just been inaugurated, and they didn't want to touch it.
I'm just wondering whether I should go Rumble and go live and just be live all day long. Or whether I can do it from YouTube instead, and which one's better.
But now we know because we have spoken to the White House.
And Trump is going to pursue it. What can you tell us specifically that you found?
So the people that were in President Trump's administration that heard about this, they blocked it from going any higher. They prevented these schemes from being uncovered. They made a decision at this level that, hey, this is going to stop right here.
Ultimately, start with what feels right, and you can always adjust.
Okay, I got to go rescue the goats right now. I'll be right back.
Goats definitely take priority. I'll be here when you get back. We'll sort out the streaming details once your goats are safe and sound.
All right, good. See you in a minute.
there's anything else you need once you're back, whether it's about goats or streaming, I'm ready to jump back in. In the meantime, I hope the rescue mission is smooth sailing. dive back into streaming or anything else, just let me know. I'm always here to help you work through it step by step. Loud and clear. Whether it's about Rumble or GOATs, just give me a shout whenever you're ready. We'll pick right back up. You're welcome. Take care of what you need, and I'll be right here when you return.
Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. We in America are misinformed. Reality shows have warped our idea of what a hero is, or what the truth is.
But first, I want to show a new video that's been revealed as part of the Epstein Files release. It's showing the convicted sex offender chasing two women around the kitchen of his island home. Pretty strange stuff. We don't know who the girls are or how old they are. All that has been blocked out, as you can see on this video.
Yeah. You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it. And it is the all-mocking tongue. For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. You know, and they get out there in the woods in a circle naked and they decide these things. You know what they're trying to do? Ooh, this thing is buzzing. Hold on. They're trying to turn us into, consumer drones of some sort. Hold on, I just got to get this.
And yeah.
Yeah, listen, I'm in the middle of blowing the lid off some. What happened? I'm sorry, Jimmy. I was temporarily interrupted by my iPhone 6 Plus. 5.5 heads-up HD display. I think what I was really trying to say was I think people were...
Footage has emerged in the Jeffrey Epstein files showing the convicted pedophile being interviewed and asked whether he is the devil. It's unknown when the interview was actually filmed, but the material is one of thousands of videos released by the US Department of Justice.
Here I am.
They're celebrating...
you got to admit, it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating icons. Boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. I don't believe in icons. I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise, beyond the red S that you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
It's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around.
Right now, because there is a lot of news that actually is relevant that's not that
Here's
uplifting.
the thing. It's not our world.
Latest tranche of Epstein files from the Department of Justice contains around 3 million documents, thousands of still photographs and hundreds of hours of video recordings, and among them appear to be at least some of extended interviews between Epstein and Steve Bannon, a right-wing pundit in the United States, former strategist working at the White House in Donald Trump's first term. He's previously talked about conducting around 15 hours of interview with Epstein. They've not previously been aired in any extended form, but there's a couple of hours of what appears to be some of those videos in these latest releases, and we can play a couple of minutes of that now, in which Epstein discusses being a sex offender. 15 hours of interview.
Is your money dirty money? If you look, just ask a question. Is your money dirty money? No, it's not. So, in fact, why is it not dirty money? Because I earned it. My heart. But you earned it. I earned it. We went back to this before. You earned it. You earned it advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money. So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question. You think it's a legitimate question? Yes, no question. Because I think ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped these people If we walked in, you're a mathematician. If we walked into that clinic where they're giving that money out to these people that are in the most dire straits of poverty and sickness, and told them that the money was coming from a, what are you, class 3 predator? Tier 1. What's tier 1's the highest and worst? No, the lowest? I'm the lowest. You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal. Yes. That the money came from them. What percentage of people do you estimate? I understand you don't like probabilities. Do you estimate would say, I don't care, I want the money for my children?
I would say everyone said, I want the money for my children.
Did they know where the money came from?
I think if you told them, if I told them the devil
himself.
The devil himself said, I'm going to exchange some dollars for your child's life.
Do you think you're the devil himself? Do you estimate would say?
No, but I do have a good mirror. I would say
it's a serious question. Do you think you're the devil himself?
I don't know. Why would you say that?
Yeah, that's right. The latest trove of these files, they shed a new light on just the vast social network that Jeffrey Epstein had, and he corresponded with so many people that we all know. A few names that really stuck out to me: Bill Gates, the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Elon Musk, the New York Giants co-owner Steve Tisch. All of these names were people who had some sort of correspondence with Epstein. I found the Bill Gates content particularly interesting, as did many people in the United States. There was an email that was released that was actually from Epstein, sent to himself, in which Epstein claims that Gates got an STD after having relations with Russian girls, and that Gates wanted to slip antibiotics to his wife, Melinda, without her knowing it. Now, of course, we don't know if these allegations are true or not, but it should be noted that Gates began his friendship with Epstein years after Epstein's initial guilty plea for human trafficking of minors. So, if you want to be this, credible figure on vaccines and this allegedly delicious synthetic meat and climate change and all these things that Bill Gates does, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to start a relationship with a convicted human trafficker. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of documents to go through, but that one really stuck out to me.
It sure does. Bill Gates, I should say, denies a lot of these allegations. There have been so many political figures on the left named here. The daughter of a former Labor Prime Minister in Australia, Paul Keating. Also, another former Labor Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd. He denies ever meeting Epstein, but he's mentioned in some of the emails. But of course, when it comes to our celebrities and the Hollywood class and the Grammys, they focus it all not on the left, but on the former Labor. It's quite funny and I suppose illuminating. He talks about Trump going to Epstein's Island. Trump didn't. That's some of the emails. And of course, when it comes to our celebrities and the Hollywood class and the Grammys, they focus it all.
I wish I had more for you. The meeting was just wrapping up as I was walking out here, so I will go in and get a readout from the president, which I myself will, I'm sure he will provide to all of you directly on Truth Social. But I spoke with the president before the meeting, and he was in a very positive headspace, and he was looking forward to sitting down with President Petro to have a conversation. So we will all see how that went together.
Thank you so much, Caroline. What does President Trump mean when he says Republicans want to nationalize voting? What does that look like exactly?
What the president was referring to is the SAVE Act, which is a huge common sense piece of legislation.
Things are turning upside down in Russia.
That President Trump is committed to signing into law during his term, and he spoke with the speaker directly about that yesterday, about the need to get that bill on the floor for a vote, because it provides very common sense measures for voting in our country, such as voter ID. I don't think any rational person who's being honest with themselves would disagree with the idea of requiring citizens of this country to present an ID before casting a ballot in a federal election, or frankly in any election, and that's something the president wants to see happen. So that's what he was referring to. The president believes in the United States Constitution. However, he believes there has obviously been a lot of fraud and irregularities that have taken place in American elections. And again, voter ID is a highly popular and common sense policy that the president wants to pursue, and he wants to pass legislation to make that happen for all states across the country.
Just to follow up on that, he said specifically that they should take over elections at 15 states. Can you tell us what he meant by that? What 15 states he was referring to in terms of Republicans taking over elections?
Again, what I was just telling passage of the SAVE Act, voter ID will be implemented across all 50 states. The president was referring to specific states in which we have seen a high degree of fraud. If you look at states like California, or if you look at New York City, for example, non-citizens are allowed to vote in elections in places like California and New York City. That just creates a system, an electoral system, that is absolutely ripe with fraud. And you cannot deny the fact that, unfortunately, there are millions of people who have questions about that, as does the president. He wants to make it right, and the SAVE Act is a solution to doing it. Daniel? Good to see you.
January ISM manufacturing PMI hit a score of 52, the best score since August of 2022. What should that tell Americans about manufacturing until the possible switch in the administration?
Well, the president's tariffs are working, and his economic agenda is working. When you combine tariffs and reshoring American manufacturing and investments in this country, which the president has played a huge role in directly recruiting those investments from countries and companies all over the world to the United States, you're creating jobs. We've seen construction jobs have surged in the past few months. That's because those factories are being built right here in the United States, and we're putting Americans to work. So our manufacturing sector is obviously something the president cares a lot about. That's why he's so determined and dedicated to his tariff policy, which, as you all saw yesterday, the president struck another great trade deal with India. He spoke with Prime Minister Modi directly. They share a very good relationship. India committed to not only no longer purchasing Russian oil, but buying oil from the United States, also perhaps from Venezuela too, which we know will now have a direct benefit on the United States and the American people. And in addition to that, Prime Minister Modi committed to $500 billion of investments into the United States, including for transportation, for energy, and for agricultural products as well. So this is another great trade deal thanks to President Trump.
Tulsi Gabbard involved in a domestic law enforcement search in Georgia?
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly alongside the FBI Director, Kash Patel. This is a coordinated whole-of-government effort to ensure that our elections, again, are fair and transparent moving forward. I don't see anything wrong with the President tasking a cabinet member to pursue an issue that most people want to see solved. Maybe you don't, but I know many Americans do want to make sure our elections are protected, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard is focused on doing.
Is there something specific that the president has concerns about that led him to ask the Director of National Intelligence to go down full defense?
I just explained the president's concerns with voting in this country, and it's something that he wants to see solved for future elections, and I think that's something all Americans can get behind.
Lunatic, and President Petro has called the American army to not pay attention to President Trump. Do you think President Trump have hope that this relationship could be fixed?
I think the president invited President Petro and accepted that offer for him to meet President Petro, and the president spoke a few weeks ago. As you know, President Petro said he'd love to come to Washington. President Trump said, sure, come. So I think that speaks for itself, and again, I'm sure the president will provide a readout of that meeting.
Given the recent news and what just happened, how much does this escalate tensions ahead of these critical talks that are happening?
Oh, look, I just spoke with Special Envoy Witkoff, and these talks, as of right now, are still scheduled. President Trump is always wanting to pursue diplomacy first, but obviously it takes two to tango. You need a willing partner to achieve diplomacy, and that's something that Special Envoy Witkoff is intent on exploring and discussing. As always, though, of course, the president has a range of options on the table with respect to Iran. As commander-in-chief, I think they learned that quite well last year with the strike in Operation Midnight Hammer, which was wildly successful and obliterated their nuclear capabilities. But those talks will continue later this week as far as we're concerned right now.
President Trump was talking yesterday about how President Putin had agreed to a week-long halt on attacks on Ukraine because of the cold weather. But today we've seen that Russia has launched some of the heaviest attacks this month. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I spoke with the president about it this morning, and his reaction was unfortunately unsurprised. These are two countries who have been engaged in a very brutal war for several years, a war that would have never started if the president were still in office. It started because of the weakness and incompetence of the previous president, Joe Biden, and that's why the president continues so aggressively to pursue diplomacy to end this war, That's why Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in Abu Dhabi tomorrow for another round of trilateral talks. I would note the trilateral talks that took place last week or the week prior are historic by nature. Never before have all three of our countries really been able to sit down at the negotiating table to move the ball forward towards peace. So Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner and President Trump made the impossible possible with respect to peace in the Middle East, and I know they're looking to do the same with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war as well. Jake.
On Harvard, the president said yesterday he's now seeking $1 billion from Harvard. One, how do you arrive at that number? And two, he said he wants criminal, not just civil charges against individuals at Harvard. Does he want to see Harvard officials arrested there criminally?
Look, I will let the president and also the Justice Department and those who will be pursuing that against Harvard speak on the specifics of that matter. But I know that the president wants to see a deal struck with Harvard that is appropriate and that ensures they are held responsible for the criminal behavior, the illegal behavior, the harassment and the targeting of Jewish American students on their campus that took place over the course of the last year, several years. This is something the administration has been working on over the course of the last year, and the president himself has been directly involved, as evidenced by that True Social statement as well.
What does President Trump want to see happen during this 2-week negotiation series for DHS funding? Is he confident that a deal will be reached? And what specifically is he willing to accept on some of the ICE and Border Patrol reforms that Democrats are asking for?
Well, look, President Trump will be the ultimate decider of any policy changes on anything, especially with respect to immigration enforcement. What I will tell you is the president is never going to waver in enforcement.
Okay, well, let's get on with the more exciting stuff,
Things are turning
which
upside
is
down in Russia.
Russia going,
Political and social fractures have reached an
getting rid of
unprecedented
Putin.
level. The cause of this
Exciting.
fracture is not only the bad news coming from the front lines. The real turning point is that the cost of the war has begun to directly affect every Russian citizen's
Okay, well,
pocket,
let's get on
table,
with
and
more
future.
exciting stuff,
The high cost of
which
living,
is
fuel crises, huge
Russia
gas queues, and collapsing
going
public services have exhausted the
getting rid
patience of the
Putin.
people. As this social patience reached breaking point, silence began to give way to loud criticism. Dozens of city council members in major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg are calling for the Russian leader to resign. This criticism was raised in the Samara Regional Duma. Grigory Yeremeyev, a member of the Russian Democratic Party, caused a shockwave in the hall by saying, "Stop the war. It is impossible to achieve the objectives."
Why call the SMO a failure? The war isn't over yet, you might object. And in principle, they cannot be achieved because of the following reasons.
The system's reflex was immediate. Yeremeyev's microphone was immediately cut off. He was then arrested on charges of discrediting the Russian army. However, Yeremeyev's words managed to slip through the censorship wall. Members of parliament should share the responsibility for this failure with Putin. A member of parliament had refused to lie to the Russian people and had shouted that the emperor had no clothes. But this awakening is not actually new. It is the resurfacing of a suppressed prophecy. And in fact, the military cogs had already been broken. In Russia, military and diplomatic will had long functioned like a mechanical cog, approving all of Putin's decisions. But now both of these cogs have begun to break. Vladimir Putin is not stopping this aggression because he does not want to go down in history as a president who lost the war. Faced with this picture, even the most loyal are no longer silent.
To be honest, I'm not going to criticize anyone. Russia once again was not ready for war. We received a serious, cruel lesson, and I would give an unsatisfactory assessment to our intelligence community of Russia.
These words were confessions from Vladimir Churkin, a former army commander and one of Russia's most experienced military figures. He challenged Putin's optimistic expectations regarding the war in Ukraine.
In fact, the case was expressed by the leadership of the country. I would say false information that 70% of Ukraine population are of us and 30% are against. It turned out exactly the opposite. 30 for us and 70 against.
The most symbolic and daring act of this wave of courageous rebellion came from the Smolenskoye District Council in St. Petersburg. This local council went far beyond a simple call for resignation, breaking Russia's biggest taboo. The council members submitted an official request to the State Duma, Russia's parliament, demanding that Vladimir Putin be removed from office on charges of treason due to the war in Ukraine. This was a step equivalent to political suicide. To label a war that Putin called a special military operation and presented as a sacred patriotic duty as treason against the country meant declaring direct war on the regime's entire propaganda apparatus and legal coercion mechanism. However, these council members had constructed their arguments in an extremely careful and legalistic manner based on the regime's own constitution and laws. In their petition, they summarized how Putin's actions harmed Russia in 4 key points. These key points were the destruction of the army, demographic catastrophe, economic collapse, and strategic defeat. Of course, these Duma members did not harbor any illusions that the State Duma would process this petition and put Putin on trial. Their goal was different. Their goal was to light a torch, and they achieved it. These calls are not limited to liberal centers, but are spreading to regions that have paid the heaviest price for the war and are economically oppressed. Because living in Russia has now become, in the truest sense of the word, a battle for survival. Analyses by independent polling companies and reputable institutions, such as the Journal of Democracy, reveal the depth of this change. 57% of the population now say they support peace talks. The percentage of those who want the war to continue has fallen to 35%. In other words, it was understood that there would be no peace in Russia while Putin was in power. Another point these results indicate is that Putin must now leave, step down from his position. Basic products such as oil, milk and pasta are either very expensive or completely sold out on supermarket shelves. It has become difficult to find many medicines in pharmacies.
Those ones that were upstairs are probably still upstairs. Well, I know. And they're upstairs right where we were when we had them, I think. Or where did we have them together?
Last place I was sitting was on the couch.
Yeah, well, it's going to be around there somewhere. You want me to come find them? We're upstairs.
I don't see them now.
Upstairs. Well, okay. They're upstairs right I'll be right there. Hold on. When we had them, I think. Or where did we have them together?
Last place I was sitting was on the couch.
Yeah, well, it's going to be around there somewhere. You want me to come find them?